Eastern Simi Valley has a unique landscape of weathered rock formations, massive boulders, coastal and California live oaks, artisan springs, and well-trodden paths. Before the Spanish El Camino Real or the Yankee stage lines rode through the area, the Venturino Chumash had a village named Shemiji, a derivative of Simi in Simi Valley. The name is explained as the little white wind clouds often seen when the wind blows in the area. The stage road traveled west across mountains until converged into the current Lilac Lane of Simi Valley. It dropped down Twilight Canyon, running alongside the later Southern Pacific Railroad's Santa Susana Tunnel, and reached Los Angeles Avenue. But after crossing the mountains, the stagecoaches would rest and get a bite to eat at a tavern called Larry Howard's Stage Station. It was at the foot of the grade on the Ventura or west side of the Santa Susana Pass and operated between 1861 and 1874. However, it was not known for its respite, but its holdups from those lurking behind the boulders that line the mountainside. The most famous is Tiburcio Vazquez, who, according to legend, caused the owner Larry Howard to improvise during these frequent attacks. On a spring night in 1871, Howard quickly escorted a mother and her children out of the inn and under blankets beneath the oaks where they would not be seen. The bandits rode in loudly and bypassed the front yard where they hid, and the family escaped with their lives, riding off safely toward Encino. In time, a crew consisting of mostly Chinese Americans blasted a tunnel under the Santa Susana Pass for the Southern Pacific Railroad. The tunnel's western exit ran just north of the site of Larry Station, what would be an ideal filming location for the future land proprietor. Meanwhile, on February 14, 1902, Ray Bennetts was born to Bernard and Ida Bennetts in a cottage on the grounds of the Joseph Schlitz Brewery Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where his father worked as a custodian. Ray suffered from a double curvature of the spine that reduced his height and limited his mobility. His parents eventually moved west to Denver, Colorado, and by 14, Ray was in theater and worked at a furniture company focusing on electronics. He was a very skilled electrician, patenting over 20 electrical inventions. At the age of 20, Ray arrived in Hollywood not just to seek work in the film studios, but to find a health guru named Bernard McFadden, who ran the Hollywood Gym. McFadden had a strengthening treatment of the spine that appealed to Ray. While he partook in community theater, he worked as a real estate salesman in Long Beach to pay for the treatments. And within a year, Ray developed the ideal physique he wanted. He eventually worked for McFadden as a director-trainer and got to work in the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer studio gym where he helped stars like Ruth Chatterton, Joan Blondell, and Joan Crawford. Dolores Del Rio was struggling with depression and nearly lost her contract, but Ray exercised her way back to health. In appreciation and awe, her husband, MGM's art director Cedric Gibbons, offered Ray a 2-year contract as a stuntman. Ray informed his parents that he had moved to Hollywood, where his father found a job at Western Costume Company. Around 1934, Ray took the name Ray Bernard for his stunt work at MGM Studios, and seeing how jungle adventure movies were dominating the market, King Kong and the like, Ray worked with his parents to suit up playing gorillas on film, being fit to do the part. He studied their movement at the San Diego Zoo and presented his 5 handmade gorilla suits on screen. He was not credited in these roles to separate himself from the next persona as a Western hero. Republic films such as Come On Cowboys in 1937 and Three Texas Steers in 1939 saw Ray as both ape and hero. Overall, Ray was a stuntman in the 31 MGM movies, from aerial vine swinging and wrestling underwater with rubber alligators for Tarzan, to falling from a ship's high mast in the Mutiny on the Bounty. Once Ray's 2-year contract ended, he was in supporting roles like Gene Autry's The Singing Vagabond, filmed at the Iverson Ranch, and later leading roles in low-budget action-adventure films. During a filming break, Ray and his friend Clark Gable decided to go shooting and hiking in Simi Valley. As they ventured west over the pass, the dramatic geological formations reminiscent of Iverson Ranch beckoned them to explore further. They noticed Jonathan R. Scott's cattle grazing on the land, but the surrounding litter indicated neglect. Let's see if he'll sell, thought Ray, recognizing the area's potential as a filming location. Ray bought the nearly 2,000-acre property for $11,354, with $1,000 down and monthly payments thereafter, clearing the debris and adding his 35 head of cattle to keep the grounds healthy. In 1936, Ray legally changed his name to Ray Bernard Corrigan after the success of the Republic's undersea kingdom with the character Crash Corrigan. The nickname stuck, and in the fall, the studio ran with a Western film series, The Three Mesquiteers, featuring Ray performing Tucson Smith alongside his cohorts. It was a parody of The Three Musketeers, an instant hit with kids. Ray was invited to theaters across the U.S. with other Western entertainers, doing stunts, interacting with the movie, and telling it like it was. The support helped pay off the movie ranch, and efforts continued until the end of his Monogram Studios contract in 1943, acting in The Range Busters. Ray took on ads and was also the first to promote the Wheaties breakfast cereal. During the tour, Ray missed a ranch payment, and the lawyer of the deed demanded an additional $3,600 or else. Ray and his friends Eddie Dean and Gene Autry frantically pitched in, while some accompanied him from Kentucky to California in a dying Packard. Just like in a movie, it was not a minute too late. With the ranch now in his name, Ray looked to attract Hollywood production companies with a vision to create a bigger and better movie ranch. He laid out new paths and paved roads for camera cars, cleared rock and brush, and contracted with studios to construct semi-permanent sets. The initial studio would have access to the set for a year, with other studios renting it after. Columbia Studios came first and built what they called a lake or lagoon. On the northwest edge was a flat-top diving rock, allowing a trick rider or a vehicle to plunge safely into the water. On level ground, Ray also planned a western town, workshops, bunkhouses, and a large livery stable for movie horses and renting them out to the public. Ray and his wife, Rita Jane Smeal, moved into the Jonathan R. Scott Ranch House in mid-1938. All three of their children were born there: Tommy Ray, Joyce Christine, and Patricia Ann. The ranch house was the westernmost building on Silvertown Movie Street, and it acted as a stage depot, telegraph office, and a Pony Express station. In May of 1938, RKO's Gun Law was the first official movie filmed at the ranch, and many more would follow. Turning the grounds into an island in the South Seas, an African jungle, a Sonoran desert, the American West, or a European forest. The close proximity to the studios made it sought after, and the ranch might have 5 different production companies filming at once. Ray had a knack for providing insight into the best location to create a scene. Ray's acting in gorilla suits helped pay for the creation of his western town. Building by building, and while there were facades throughout the ranch, the first Western Street, Silvertown, emerged in 1943. Its growth was akin to an amusement park. Think Knott's Ghost Town, where the public could visit and walk into a historic-looking interiors. Others built and left structures like a castle, a European-style village, and director John Ford's Fort Apache in 1948. Before opening to the public, Ray offered a club membership for Hollywood actors to get away and visit the ranch, where they could camp out and take up activities like riding horses, swimming, and hunting. By 1946, movie production gradually declined and budget films were too expensive for a shrinking demand. Ray prepared for a shift to television and organized his ranch to accommodate these productions while inviting the public to see them firsthand. Ray helped the studios with production equipment and pitched a list to match everyone's needs. Notably, Ray became one of the first, if not the first, to see his property a permanent enclosed amusement park, charging general admission and providing rides and attractions. Walter Knott of Knott's Berry Farm is the other contender. Ray was known to help disadvantaged youth, busing them to the ranch for a day of fun and taking care of those with disabilities. On May 1st, 1949, Ray opened the Corriganville Movie Ranch. It was an explosion of people, partly due to a free Dixie Cup promotion, leaving Ray to turn many visitors away. Ever after, the Sunday outing could see as many as 10 to 20,000 visitors, depending on if there was a special event. In May 1953, Corrigan purchased another 2,000 acres, providing a 5-lane entrance on Los Angeles Avenue, now called Cooner Drive, additional parking, and a full-scale rodeo arena. With this, Saturdays were added, and the rodeo arena also had Wild West shows and equestrian events. He brought out celebrity Western actors to serve as Grand Marshal. Ray had several shows in the early 1950s exhibiting the grounds, including a weekly children's program featuring his son Tommy. Visitors were shuttled in via tractor or horse-drawn trams to buses from the parking lot to the ranch interior. Visitors could stay on the tram or be dropped off at specific locations. Maybe think of the train at Disney for this. Silvertown offered the most, and Ray had plenty of stuntmen to thrill audiences with choreographed scenes. In 1952, Elaine DuPont became heavily involved in the ranch's schedule, coordinating 40 stunt routines. The ranch's own newspaper, the Corriganville Gazette, called out Dalton Brothers Bank holdup at Coffeyville, the beating of Joaquin Merida, Billy the Kid becomes an outlaw, and the gunfight at the OK Corral, to name a few. Allegedly, even the cast of Knott's Berry Farm came to Corriganville to learn stunt routines. Both theme parks were similar in design, with actual buildings and facades, mainly catering to merchandise and vendors for the public. The Silver Dollar Saloon boasted draft beer, soft drinks, and a 5-cent salami sandwich, while watching dance hall girls, as the Trading Post sold Western wear, souvenirs, and featured a leather craftsman and glass blower. Entertainment from Max Terhun's Dummy Show, a chuck wagon for treats, blacksmith shop, hotel for events, and an old-time movie theater. And these are just a few of the things offered in the town. Outside of this were riding lessons, a Wells Fargo stage line, a railroad, and picnic sites. The performers were singing groups, dancers, and everyday townsfolk. If this wasn't enough, visitors could go off the beaten path, explore trails, old sets, and caves, and find arrowheads that were planted. Ray was available for photos, and children could sit on his horse Flash. The kids would take the prop gun and point it at Ray 1,000 times over, which he held up his hands. There was even a Crash Corrigan fan club with photo ID. In 1954, journalists reported Ray and his wife Rita Jane were going through a bitter divorce. Ray was courting his co-performer at the ranch, Elaine DuPont, while his foreman, Moses Bud Stilts, was with Rita. By 1954, it got so bad that the 3 children were temporarily held in the ward of the juvenile court. Still, the chaos did not affect the ranch's earnings, and investors flocked to Corriganville, with Outdoor Amusements, Inc. taking over operations management. Ray would receive $3,000 a month as an advisor and technical consultant. The court decided that Rita would take half of the interest in the property and an equal share of the net profits. On August 3, 1954, the Lone Ranger television series set its base at Corriganville with its producer, Jack Rather. Ray and Elaine married on April 7, 1956, and left the ranch to settle in Northridge. The ranch house, meanwhile, became the headquarters for the foreman. As Ray focused on family life, Rather gained temporary control of Outdoor Amusements, Inc., and was the majority stockholder. Rather renamed the Corriganville Movie Ranch to the Lone Ranger Ranch between January 1957 and May 3rd of 1958. Rather went all out to merchandise his series and the connection to Corriganville. Wheaties boxes had cutouts of the western town they called the Lone Ranger Movie Ranch. However, the control Rather had would end abruptly when the Corrigans filed a lawsuit stating Rather violated his contract by neglecting the ranch's upkeep and allowing the aged oak trees to die. In the summer of 1958, Ray reopened the ranch with a "Howdy, partner," and set it to be all week long. It was retitled Corriganville, World's Most Famous Movie Ranch, claiming over 3,500 pictures were made there. There was also a resurgence in Ray's acting career as he finished 2 oddities, The Bride and the Beast, as a gorilla, and in the title role in It, The Terror from Beyond Space. By April 1959, Ray was considering a major expansion, but the state of California intended to build the 118 freeway along the Upper Ranch property. Additionally, Ray's health was wavering, but he continued his mission, and in the early 60s, he celebrated the birth of his daughter, Colleen Suzanne, and established the Corriganville Academy of Motion Pictures and Theater Arts, a training ground for actors and those in the entertainment industry. In May of 1962, Ray encouraged on-site camping at Corriganville in tents, campers, and trailers. Still, the overall experience changed with the times, and hippies now replace cowboy heroes. Spaghetti westerns took the films to Italy and Spain, and Ray scrambled to try and recapture the public's interest with a motocross and go-kart track. But the government again pushed back, and with pressure from Rita, the co-owner, Ray sadly sold his ranch in 1965 for over $2 million, not before allowing a final film shoot called Billy the Kid vs. Dracula. The new owner was Bob Hope, who called it Hopetown. In 1967, Ray and Elaine divorced on much more friendly terms, leaving Ray to pack up to Washington State. He went on to live in Brookings, Oregon, where he attended Western film conventions, and in May of 1976, Ray was honored as Grand Marshal in a parade. On September 25, 1970, a 2-day firestorm swept through the Saugus-Newhall area, burning both Iverson and Spawn Movie Ranches, then most of the Corriganville area. Ray longed to reunite with the old days in Hollywood, and he even visited the site of the former ranch, which caused him to grow even more weary. Arriving back home in Brookings, Ray died of a fatal heart attack on August 10, 1976. The public was nostalgic for Ray and his vision and asked for the city of Simi Valley to make it a recreational park. The city allowed a portion of it, 225 acres, but since 1985, it's really the Simi Valley residents that have done a tremendous job to remind us all of the importance of Corriganville. This has been Biographies of the West. My name is Lorin Morgan-Richards. Thanks for watching.